Good evening and welcome to this City Council meeting, August 2nd of 2022. The clerk will note that all council are present. David Bond is doing our invocation tonight, and I'd like to welcome David forward and provide him the opportunity to share an invocation with us.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, we just give you praise for this opportunity to stand in this chamber tonight, Father, and we just ask for your presence to be here as the sole authority. Father, I pray for this city, and I pray for a mighty move of your Holy Spirit to flow through this city in such a way that people see you, understand you, know you, and Father, that you have your way, Lord. Father, I personally pray that a fruitful relationship can continue to be nurtured between the Jesus-believing faith community and all the city governances, Father, because I know that that will bless your heart. Father, I pray specifically, even tonight, for any interaction that's made, Father, between this council and everybody behind me, Lord, that it promote you, that it bless your heart, that it be made in a very respectful manner, Father, that it just maintains a peace and a level of peace for what goes on in this chamber, Lord. Father, I thank you, and I know that in Romans 13 it establishes that this council right here before me has been ordained for this time. Father, you handpicked and placed these people right here. You've seated them for a time and a season such as this, Father. And in 1 Timothy, as we continue, Lord, it calls us to intercede, give thanks, and pray for these people right here. Father, so I intercede in prayer for their families. I pray for wisdom. I pray for guidance, and I pray for direction. Father, I give thanks for their desire to serve in this capacity, Lord. And I pray for strength for them as they tackle tough decisions that seem to be coming more often this year, unlike any other year before. Father, and I also pray that you give them foresight to protect this beautiful city that we love so dearly, Father, that they can look into the future and see what's for the good of the people, that we can protect this city, Lord, for generations to come. Father, in closing, I just pray that you richly pour out your blessings on Mayor Jim and each of the council men and women. Lord, that you would make yourself known, Father, and thank you for all that you do through them. And we love you and pray these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Amy, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under amendments to the agenda, one of the items on the agenda is an approval of some recommended art pieces. And I wondered at this point whether I'm going to give the council some options, and that is one, just move forward with the agenda item as is. Two, schedule a separate meeting just to hear the pros and cons of the Arts Commission recommendations. Or three, where you can pull out certain pieces of art and approve the rest. So those are the options. What would be the council's pleasure?
Well, my feeling, we do this on a regular basis. It comes up. We have a group of people who put their time in, spend a lot of time looking at this, approving it. There's always some differences of opinion on arts. We've had them before. I'm sure we'll have them again. I know there's one on there tonight that's drawn certain comments, criticism, I guess depending how people look at it. But for me, I wouldn't want us to get in setting some kind of a precedent that, if something's a little bit, cause a little bit of friction, we're going to pull it off and step aside or something. Again, I don't think it's very respectful to the committee that put it together. And anyway, I think it's on the agenda. I think it's appropriately on there. So for me, anyway, I would say just go forward. And when it comes up, we can talk about things. But
Other thoughts?
I was just going to say, if you want to comment on it, you need to do it in public comments. So sign up.
Okay, we'll leave it as is, and we'll move forward. Announcements from the city council?
I would just make a comment. Have spent a couple of times recently down at Atlas Park and the Water Dog Park in particular. And boy, if you haven't been down there and you want to have some joy, just go down and watch the people and their dogs. I know my dog is extremely grateful, and actually a number of the dogs got me aside and said they're thinking about registering to vote so they could vote for some of us, but we'll see about that. But anyway, the dog park is great, so you should go down there and see it.
Anything else? Okay, I would move I would ask for approval for the appointment of David Pissarro to the Pedestrian and Bike Advisory Committee and Jolie Wenglinski to Child Care Commission.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Those opposed with nay. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of consent calendar as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor, oh, no, this is clerk call the roll kind of thing. Please.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Gookin,
Yes.
English,
Yes?
Wood,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Okay, public comments. I was asked if you can give your time to somebody else, and no, you cannot. You are limited to 3 minutes, and that's how it works. We'll start with these public comments, and the first person up is Cheryl Birch. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Hammond, City Council. I'm here to talk about the statues, one in particular. Now, would we have a statue of this? We all know what this means, doesn't it?
She needs to speak to us.
This is a symbol of the Nazis.
Hold on something. For all of you, you need to focus on talking to the council. Please don't turn and face, because you're not going to get picked up by the microphone.
Okay.
And your comments should just be addressed to the council, please.
Okay,
Thank you.
absolutely. But we know what this symbol means. It's a symbol of Nazism. It's a symbol of 6 million people being killed by the Nazis. And if you take that symbol and you clasp it, this is a symbol of communism. And what we don't talk about is that communism, just in Russia alone, under Stalin, killed 10 times that many. They killed 60 million people. And I'm not talking about Cuba, Hungary, Poland, all the other countries that they have taken over and killed. If you want to know how communism took over China, I suggest you read To Live and Die in Shanghai. It was recommended to me by an acupuncturist I had in Seattle, because I'm from Seattle. I ran away from Seattle at great expense, emotionally and financially, to come to this wonderful place. And I'm so concerned that communism is infecting this place too. As you know, Seattle is infected by communism. And I don't want to see this symbol. You may not be aware of it, but the clenched fist is a symbol of communism. Now, how do I know that? I was a communist in Seattle for 2 years until I wised up, until I knew what we were doing and what this symbol means. Please, do not put this in North Idaho. This is a wonderful place. Let's keep it that way. No fist, please. Thank you.
Before we go on, I want to share with you that on this sheet, it says, any citizen wishing to give public comment before the City Council of the City of Coeur d'Alene shall legibly sign their full name and provide their residential address on the sign-in sheet. Some of you chose not to do that. Some of you have chosen not to have the opportunity to speak. Rosalind Squaretes.
You can read, right?
My name is Rosaline Scantus. I live in Kootenai County. I have 4 children, and I own a tax service business. I'm here to say, why would you want to admire and set up a monument of a fisted hand, a representation of socialism from below, communism, Marxism, the Hitler regime, Nazis, Mussolini's reign, and the over millions of lives that were destroyed because of this evil? The hand that will rule the world. The Berlin Wall came down, but communism continues today throughout many third world countries. On January 5th, 1969, Ronald Reagan warned that, quote, freedom is a fragile thing and is only one generation away from extinction. It comes only once, and those who had it and lost it never saw it again. It must be fought for and shared, end of quote. Ronald Reagan also said, quote, government is the people's business, and every man, every woman, every child becomes a shareholder with the first penny of their taxes. But of course, we have the greedy elites, the World Economic Forum, who don't believe this. They feel we have no right to protest anything, but, quote, we the people, end of quote. It's the most very important phrase. We the people must continue to pass down to the next generation our gifts of freedom and power. The structure of government should never encroach on the freedom of its citizens, but it even does today. We're not allowed to talk, we're not allowed to protest, and I want to say that this monument dedicated to the artist who sculptured the fist, it is a representation of something that is against my country, God, the Constitution, and all the forefathers and all the military that fought in it. There is a darkness spreading across America and other countries today, and some people think socialism is a softer version of quality, fairness, and common good, but I don't think so. It extends into communist. My dad once said on his deathbed, Rosie, one day you will be living where bad leaders will be saying evil is good, and good will become evil. It is important to stay close to your Lord God. Anyway, I said all that to say that my dad fought World War II. He was under General Patton and other leaders as he fought. He lost a lot of his friends in the beaches of Normandy. My brothers have fought, my uncles, many of my friends. My grandparents came here from third world countries. All 4 of them came here on ships. They sat under the Hitler regime. And I'm here to say I do not want to see that fist. I don't want to see it. I've heard the horror stories. I know the horror stories of communism. Anyway, I am going to say that, don't time to finish it, but I am thoroughly disgusted, vehemently against this. It is despicable to me that in America, United States of America, you would want to erect that monument in Kootenai County in Idaho when it represents communism. I don't want it. I'm here to protest it. And as a mayor, you should be ashamed of yourself, all of you, if you want this in this county. It's shameful to me. Thank you for listening to me.
Can you please hold your applause?
They're coming up.
Mr. Mayor.
Oh, we've got.
I need to add my address.
Chief.
This is not good.
Be nice if they knew how to.
Go on back there and we'll get it to you.
Please
Go on
exit the
back
dais.
there and we'll get it to you.
Thank you.
Apparently, there's another person wants to sign this. Troy?
He's out with the community.
He's exited.
Continue to sign before the meeting starts. That was the rule.
That elderly gentleman right there would like to sign it.
I'd like to sign it.
Yep,
We might need
we'll get it to you.
this meeting.
This 21 years.
No, I'll put my address down. I had 7 men come out of the park, threaten to burn my house down.
Whoa.
Because simply for putting a political
Megan
sign-
Slauson,
simply for putting a political sign on my fence post.
you won't be, I will not read addresses, but you are told, we deserve to know where you live. Megan Slauson,
This is fun.
can I get some help here? You're,
Can we take a recess until the
Take a
crowd
recess,
decides?
please.
what's that?
Can we
for
take a
recess.
recess until they get under control?
We need more police here.
That's pretty bad.
Call recess.
Who's on?
I'll put myself at risk.
Recess.
We're going to adjourn for a minute.
Recess. Recess.
Oh, recess.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the Coeur d'Alene City Council meeting. We are in the midst of public comment. A lot of people interested in some of the recommended public art. It's important that we hear from all of you that wish to share a comment, but it's also important that we all be respectful of one another. We had some folks come in after the meeting had started and wanted to sign up. If you want to sign up for public comment, you need to be here before the meeting starts. We even moved the time for public comment further down so that more people would have time to sign up. But you need to be here. If you can't, then you're not going to have the opportunity to take part in public comment. Welcome, Megan.
My name is Megan Slauson, and I live in Coeur d'Alene. The citizens of Coeur d'Alene are committed to build an exceptional collection of public art that defines the community and distinguishes it from others, complementing Coeur d'Alene's many attributes and serving for posterity. This is the vision statement of the Arts Commission on the City of Coeur d'Alene website. Watching and listening to the Arts Commissioners giggle and laugh during their discussion regarding the statue of the raised clenched fist, it is very evident that the goal of erecting this particular statue is to create controversy within our community. During this discussion, one commissioner even says, "Then there you go, it's just the way life is." This was in response to someone saying, "It's controversial." Does that sound like an arts commission whose goal and vision is to build a collection of art that defines the community of Coeur d'Alene? No. It sounds like a commission that wants to use a well-known symbol of communism, socialism, rebellion, and violent revolution in order to create division in our city. I can say with 100% certainty that the clenched fist of violent revolution is better suited to be next to the Vladimir Lenin statue in the Fremont neighborhood of Seattle. So my question is this: is the mayor of Coeur d'Alene and the city council going to allow the Arts Commission to use their power to purposely create controversy and division within our community, or are you going to make the correct decision that is representative of unity and a reflection of the citizens that live in this community that you represent? Thank you.
And I've asked you to hold applause. This isn't a wrestling match. This is a city council meeting. We have a lot of business to conduct, and we want to do it in a proper manner. Joe Alfieri, welcome, Joe.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Joe Alfieri. I'm a proud resident of Coeur d'Alene. The clenched fist is a revolutionary and a communist symbol, and it has no place as public art in Coeur d'Alene. Even though some of the proponents of this public art may have little or no knowledge of its origin and meaning, we can be sure that its usage in popular culture is with a purpose. Let me tell you about this symbolism, which is an example of Aesopian language. Merriam-Webster's collegiate dictionary defines Aesopian as conveying an innocent meaning to an outsider, but a hidden meaning to a member of a conspiracy or an underground movement. I'm going to make the assumption that the council and the Arts Commission fall into the former category and not the latter. The clenched fist salute has been used among revolutionaries for centuries as a symbol of defiance, comradeship, and solidarity. It was used during the French Revolution of 1789 and again in the Paris Revolt of 1848. At the formation of the First International in London in 1864, Karl Marx and his followers gave the clenched fist salute, and again at the Second International at Brussels in 1889. Since the Third International at the Comintern in Moscow in 1919, it's been the official salute of all communist parties throughout the world. On January 31, 1949, PLA forces triumphantly celebrated the Kuomintang's defeat in Peking, China, with the clenched fist salute for Chairman Mao Zedong. During the civil rights movement in the United States during the 1960s, militant black groups, such as the Black Panther Party, adopted the symbol, calling it the Black Power salute. We saw this in 1968 at the Olympics in Mexico City, when two African-American 200-meter medalists raised their clenched fists. The clenched fist continues as a symbol of black power, as evidenced by its contemporary usage by Black Lives Matter. In fact, the official logo of Black Lives Matter is of a hooded African-American with his or her arm raised in the air, making a clenched fist. In the official newspaper of the Communist Party USA Revolution, Chairman John Bachtel said Black Lives Matter has played an important part. This is no coincidence, because the co-founders of Black Lives Matter are three radical self-proclaimed Marxists. The average American, and as I said, perhaps the Art Commission and the City Council, who view the clenched fist as something cool or faddish, a fist pump, or are simply calling for black racial justice and equality, fail to understand what the editors of communist outlets know when they print these images of clenched fists on the covers of their newspapers. It's time we recognize the clenched fist for what it stands for. Communism, which is responsible for the enslavement and deaths of millions of people around the world. We must not let this terrible symbol become part of our city, and I urge the City Council to reject the recommendations of the Art Commission.
Thank you. Laura Van Voorhees. Laura? Laura Van Voorhees.
Voorhees.
Am I saying that wrong, Laura?
Van Voorhees.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Well, I tried.
huh?
I tried.
You did. It's a common mistake. Did all of you get this?
Yes.
Okay, and so that kind of, for everybody else to see,
No.
camera, that the fist is a symbol of communism. It is the communist salute. So not to be redundant, because other people have already addressed what I was going to say. So I think I will talk about respect. And in that, the Arts Council, if you've seen the video, as probably all of us have, they are very disrespectful. Mr. English, you said that it would be disrespectful to the Arts Commission not to hear this tonight. And I say that the Arts Commission is not only disrespectful, but very dismissive of the public. They say it's the same people that come and complain or whatever, but it's the same people. And is it enough to get the statue taken down? No, it's not going to be. So they don't care what we think, but I guarantee that you should consider not consider. I cannot stress enough that you should not recommend this tragedy of a supposedly piece of art. I want to say that it's not only disrespectful to the people here that live here, it's an embarrassment to the whole community. And further, it would be totally disrespectful, given that it is a communist salute. It flies in the face of everything that our values hold dear. It's an insult to every veteran, every current service member, every blue and gold star mother, every founding father, every elected official who honestly swore the oath to uphold and defend our precious Constitution. It's an insult to the millions of immigrants that have come here to escape this very thing that this represents. And to say the fist does not represent the values of the majority of Kootenai County, you must vote no for the fist, or you will forever be associated with the global corporate communist movements hell-bent on destroying the world's population for their own narcissistic power. Please don't be a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Wisniewski. Tony? So the next people don't hear me with the applause, so please stop that.
My name is Tony Wisniewski. I'm a state representative representing Post Falls, Worley, and Rathdrum. Most of you don't know a whole lot about communism. What you have learned maybe is a theory in a political science or a civics class from probably a liberal professor. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my family history to give a little background about communism. In September of 1939, World War II started. The two largest armies in the world converged on Poland, the Nazis from the west and the Russians, the Soviets, from the east. My father was already in the Polish army. It's typical for many European countries to have their young men serve a couple of years in the armed services to provide service to their country. He fought for 6 years against the Nazis in Southern Europe, Palestine, North Africa, and Italy. He survived being machine gunned, grenaded, shot, had both eardrums blown out with artillery fire. He knows the savagery of the Nazis. After the war, the Allies had a policy of repatriating people, so the French people went back to France, Poles went to Poland. My parents, who didn't know each other at the time, refused to go back to Poland because our president, FDR, and Winston Churchill handed over all of Eastern Europe as a peace prize to the Soviets with the intention of having free elections. Well, guess what? The candidates for those offices mysteriously disappeared. Their family members were threatened. They were threatened, and the countries went all communist. My parents lived under this. My dad fought for 6 years to free his country from the Nazis, only to see it handed over by the Allies to an infinitely worse regime of the communists. Now, years later, when we lived up in northern Utah, my father's niece and her husband came to visit us, and they proved to us that the communists really are intent on providing a classless society. Both of them were doctors. My father's niece was at the head of a wing of a hospital. They were MDs. They both had part-time jobs to support their family. They had one child. They had one car between them. They had a small apartment. And the Soviet system, the people's government of Poland, in order to make sure that these two doctors returned, kept their son in Poland as a hostage. Now, this is the type of government that we're talking about. Now, 2 years ago, the legislature passed a resolution remembering the 100 million, may I finish my sentence? The 100 million victims of communism, and the resolution, quote, condemns communism as a political philosophy incompatible with liberty, prosperity, and the dignity of human life. I urge you not to place that statue here in Coeur d'Alene.
Rachel Nunez. Good evening.
First, I wanted to address the address policy. It was determined in Illinois, which is 14-009, that requiring this information for someone to make public comment is an intimidation tactic and is illegal. So if you don't want to open yourselves up to a lawsuit, I suggest that you drop this policy.
Well, actually, that's Illinois, but it's not Idaho.
No, but it's already been determined, and the same... precedent. The clenched fist or fisting double entendre, so-called artwork, is a well-known communist symbol for violence, and B, it is also a known symbol of a very sick and very physically damaging sexual practice, and I'm not going to go into any further detail on that. Artwork can be controversial, but when it's taxpayer-funded and publicly displayed, it should be pleasing, not repugnant to the public. I hope that you reject this deranged public display and replace those on the Arts Commission who wish to foist this ugly, violent symbolism on Coeur d'Alene. Thank you.
Justin O'Connell.
Hello, thank you so much, everyone, for what you do.
I want to thank council for spending taxpayer money on the arts. Obviously, the financial gain of artists and artistic enjoyment of citizens is right in local government's wheelhouse. It just so happens that I moonlight as an artist when I am off from my gig at Central Planning, which is great benefits, but honestly not the best salary. And when it comes to this art thing, I've been trying to sell my art on the free market, and man, is that hard. It's like, want to buy my art? No. 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 And then I was like, wow, you can sell your art to local governments? My understanding is if I participate in the arts program, I can get a $1,000 stipend plus $800 per year thereafter, and you market my art to be sold. Sign me up. Let's take a look at my art. All right. So first things first, this is a bike rack with a sickle and hammer and a sun, and also a emergency Narcan box just to pick me up for the Groms. Those are going around town, actually. And I actually did not know that there was a power fist that was being displayed. I didn't look at the art beforehand, so this is kind of a duplicate, but I can tell you what, this is a trick I learned from the free market. I can undercut the black fist that you're considering right now, and I'll offer you a better price. This is just a headless stick figure. It's a worker with the red flag. And here's just a postmodern red star with the sickle and hammer in it as well. Now, a little bit about my background. I noticed a lot of the artists are from Oregon and Washington, and it just so happens I'm from California, so it's perfect. Now, if you're not interested in my art, I also do PR, and I've had an idea to market the local public art here. It's a YouTube show called Free Market Art Rejects. I basically go around town and I review all the art to spread awareness about public arts programs. Another thing is the informational app you have for the art program, AutoCast. This is perfect. I work with apps. I have downloaded them. They've tracked me. I am open to being the city's arts app technician. I can be on call whenever I'm not working with central planning. Now, I understand this app costs the city $5,000 up front plus $2,500 per year and $80 per listing. Now, most of the apps I work with are free for everyone except for the advertisers, but I will figure this out. So just to be clear, I need the cash quick. Inflation is killing us over at Central Planning, and I can't really get my Social Security for a while. So I need you to buy not all the artwork, a subsidy will do. So thank you so much for all you do. Have a good evening.
Alan Golub? Alan?
Thank you, Mayor Hammond and City Council. As the other gentleman, I too am an artist, and I had the great honor to do the poster to remember Greg Moore. I also had the great honor to go to New York and meet the family and the department of Brian Moore, a 25-year-old detective from the 105th Precinct in New York who got shot in the face on May 4th, 2015, one day before we lost Greg. Since that time, I've done art to honor police, fire, sheriffs, tribal members from Maine to Hawaii, from Alaska to Florida. When I was in Portland last week, this was the flag that was flying there. It's a flag, a Black Lives Matter with a fist. We are not Portland. Those are the same people that caused hundreds of our police brothers to be harmed across these cities. And I don't want to have any symbol again that would harm our police brothers. Thank you.
Thank you. And
If you were to wear this shirt that is recommended that says North Idaho rejects hate, you cannot wear this shirt and put that artwork in our city.
That's right.
thank you. Mike Gridley? And then Mary Smith will be next.
Good evening. Well, Alan gave me a lead in there, so I've got the shirt on. So I won't speak to the art, other than Art on the Green is coming this week. And as we know, that's one of our signature events here. and gets a lot of people, a lot of good stuff there. We also have Taste of Coeur d'Alene, another signature event. One of the reasons we all live here. I think another reason that we all live here is because the people are all so nice, and we generally all get along. And we have different opinions, certainly, but we're respectful and we get along with each other and respect each other. So I was here a couple of weeks ago, before the 4th of July, and we said, what if we, in response to some of the folks have shown up that aren't true North Idahoans, who don't get along with folks, and we said, we reject people who hate others. And we printed these T-shirts up, printed 1,000 of them, and then, holy cow, how we get rid of these? They were gone in 24 hours. And so we said, let's do another 1,000. And so 400 have already gone away. We haven't even given them out to the public, but we're going to set up in front of the Human Rights Education Institute, HREI, Friday at 3 o'clock, 3 to 6, Saturday from noon to 6 or noon to 5, I forget which, but we'll be there, and come down and get a shirt. And it represents, based on the people, young, old, big, tall, of all types that came to Runge's and got the first 1,000, I think it represents the attitude of the majority of people here. We may differ in opinions, but we're respectful and we get along, and we want to promote that. So look forward to seeing you all this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Smith?
Because of the seriousness of the issue here tonight, I'm not going to talk about my issue, which is building height in Coeur d'Alene. However, I tend to agree that the fist should not be displayed.
Jennifer Drake?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I didn't actually prepare any comments tonight, but as a member of the Arts Commission, I feel it is definitely my duty to stand up and say something. I would like to point out that the majority of the people speaking today are willfully ignoring the artist's intent. In fact, I'm guessing that they haven't even read the artist's intent, so let me help everybody out. I will read the artist's intent for this piece. It is called Solidarity, and it focuses on the solidarity with oppressed people, recently particularly women and people of color. Quote, I was inspired to create this piece because I find it to be a powerful contemporary and historic symbol of solidarity with those who struggle for human rights and stand with marginalized groups. The symbol has been used by movements for equality and civil rights around the world and is a global icon for those who fight against oppression and authoritarianism. In using reclaimed metal to sculpt this piece, I am also expressing solidarity with those who use the Earth's resources responsibly. I am fascinated with making scrap metal come to life and fashioning it into icons of the human spirit. I hope when people look at my pieces, they see the creative power that can come from sculpting industrial hardware and metal stock into art. Did we think this was going to be controversial? Of course we did. Art is often controversial, and obviously this is going to bring up plenty of opinions. For people to say that nobody will appreciate it, that's not true. I've heard from many in the community who were not only happy to have this in town, but would stand in solidarity with it. The irony is not lost on me that those who are standing up here disrespecting the volunteers of the Arts Commission after seeing a 2-minute edited video and think that they know how the Arts Commission operates and what our motives are. The irony is not lost on me that those same people are back here spewing hateful comments, hissing at our backs, saying, yeah, right, here we go, whatever. So you know what? If you heard this intent and heard what the Arts Commission has to say, and you choose not to approve this piece, that's totally fine. That is your prerogative. That is why we go through this process, and it's why we've gone through this process for every piece that's gone in Coeur d'Alene for the last 20 years. It goes through a selection committee, the Arts Commission, and the mayor and council. So you are absolutely doing your job today. If you choose not to accept it, that's fine. I just really hope you're doing it for the right reasons. and not just because a group of vocal malcontents have arrived to town and are trying to impose their beliefs on a community that has been here far longer than they have. Thank you.
The majority of the free world disagrees.
That's very brave of her.
It,
Yeah, that guy's following her.
Yeah, they need to go with her.
it's disappointing to hear comment like that. I thought we were going to all be respectful of varying opinions.
He was totally respectful.
Wendy Smith? Good evening,
Hi,
Wendy.
thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Wendy, yeah, you need to get closer to the mic, please. Thank you.
Okay. I do want to apologize for my social gaffe in coming up. My intention was to jot down my address. I have never actually given my address, and I have spoken at several city meetings. So I was unaware that it was required. I still don't feel comfortable with that policy, and I would ask that you reconsider in future meetings. But thank you for allowing me to come and speak tonight. This is my daughter. She is a woman, also a person of color. The raised fist communist symbol is not honoring to her. She is the only African American in this room. So I believe that she is representative of her people, white and black. And she didn't want to speak, but she's allowing me to speak for her, to ask you please to not put the raised fist as an art piece in Coeur d'Alene. I'll give you some reasons why. It's a symbol of aggression and violence. It is known as the Black Power Fist, the BLM Fist, Solidarity Fist, but it has been the official salute of all the communist parties in the world. Most recently, it's the symbol of BLM. We come from Seattle. My main concern is that there was a BLM march that came to my city of 6,000. It started at the police precinct and it ended at the beach. We did not participate, and instead we went down to the police office, and I have the number memorized and I know the officers by name. So I took a bunch of kids in a van, and we had made these beautiful art pictures just to let them know how much we value them. We thank our officers for their duty and service to us in the community. And in Seattle in 2020, they were being violently mobbed and absolutely treated worse than you would never want to see people treated like that. And those were our officers. They were stripped of their arms, and they were put en masse in front of a rabid crowd of BLM protesters who were throwing jagged bottles of urine and all kinds of horrible weapons at our officers, who are our beloved officers. They track down our children when they're kidnapped. They protect our communities and our homes. How dare we, as a city of Coeur d'Alene, which we left Seattle and came to live in Coeur d'Alene for safety and peace for our family and our children, how dare we as a city now say that we're going to adopt the raised fist as a symbol of hatred to our police? So I think the raised fist most of all represents BLM. They have used it as it's like right on their website, it's on their t-shirts, and it represents a lawless society, and it devalues our beloved police officers. So please, please consider the message that you're sending on our city streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Mike Kemp? Mike? Mike Kemp?
Birdsong?
Pardon?
Last name Birdsong?
No, Mike Kemp.
Oh, Kemp.
There we go.
You're about three more down.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mike.
Good evening. Thank you. I have to start off by saying I was absolutely amazed at the eloquence here. I'm new to the area, and I had a speech prepared here about this FIST thing, but I'll tell you what, it's been covered so well, I don't think I could embellish anything. I imagine the attorneys ready to go sign them up to go to law school. They were excellent. The gentleman, too, I was very impressed with. However, I have a comment to make at this point. I was in sales my whole life. When I was in the showroom, you couldn't get me out of it when the new Corvette came in. So tonight, I'm looking for the Corvette. I don't see this artwork wherever it is, if it exists. I come to this wonderful library every day, and I thoroughly enjoy it. But I've watched the newspapers. I haven't seen any articles in there about it. But I'm kind of appalled that this would be coming out tonight, and I haven't got a clue what it looks like. I have heard, though, pretty much what it must look like, because I haven't heard this kind of as the first conversation in a long time. So I just hope for the future it's better prepared. I want to see the Corvette. I want to see the Arts Council here. I'm proud of what I got. Now, where's the Arts Council? They're so proud of this, and they, I guess, brought it forward already. I don't know if there's any voting that's been done on it, but what can you vote on if you can't even see it? I think that's about it. No sense in belating it. As I say, I'm very impressed with what I heard so far. And thank you for the time. Still a great country where you can say what you think.
Brooke Miller. I think that the last name's kind of hard to see, but is that correct? Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for your time tonight. I have been an Idaho resident for 48 years, so there are some of us from this area that stand against this as well. My unique situation is this, is I also have 2 children of color, and it's very difficult when, I think this all started about 2 years ago, when my little 13-year-old put on her Instagram the big fist as her profile. And I was like, wait, what is this? I've never heard of this. And of course, I dove deep into research immediately because I don't know, I have black sons. Do I support this or do I not support it? I don't know what it is. So I dove deep into it, and it was very eye-awakening. I couldn't believe that this was a symbol that all of these little kids are putting up because they feel like Black Lives Matter. Of course, Black Lives Matter. And we don't want to be divisive. We just wanted to stand for Black people. She has Black brothers. Of course, she wants to stand for that. But what I came to find out really quickly was that it was divisive. And so, obviously the whole history of the raised fist has been thoroughly covered tonight, but I just don't want something else in our community to be divisive. And there are so many beautiful things that we could have as art in this community, and we do have, and the Arts Commission has chose wonderful things and also some things maybe that other people don't like. So I'm just asking, as a mom who's trying to raise Black children in our community, we don't need any more divisiveness, and even just that symbol can definitely be that. What wasn't brought up too much tonight was back in the 1980s, the fist actually also was white power. And you know how hard we worked to get racism out of North Idaho. And so it just kind of is interesting to me that that wasn't brought up, because as much as I don't want division with the Black Lives Matter fist, I don't want division with everyone. It's metal. So is it a white fist or is it a black fist? I don't know. But either way, both of them, it says by the 80s, white supremacists in the United States and elsewhere had appropriated this symbol, substituting a white fist. White supremacists frequently claim that they use the symbol to represent white pride or white power. So, in the words of Thomas Sowell, racism does not have a good track record. It's been tried out for a long time, and you'd think by now we want to put an end to it instead of putting it under new management. So I just ask, as someone in this community that loves our community, that loves art, that we just find something else instead of this structure. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy? Good evening, Randy.
first thing I want to address is the requirement for having your address, as I stated previously, simply for hanging a political sign on my fence post. Many young men came up and threatened my wife, spewed vulgarities at her, and threatened to burn my house down. That is the reason why I do not want to put my address down, so that if anybody happens to feel like they want to look and see where I live, so they can come to my house and cause problems for my wife and kids. If you have that's part of the big problem that we have in this city, is the divisiveness. We've lost the ability to have the conversation. It's okay to disagree and still be friends. But what's not okay is to make my children and my wife fear that the Molotov cocktail is going to come through the window. It's not okay to deny a young child access to medical care because she can't handle the stimulus of having a mask on her face. But because of the rhetoric on the left, people feel as if they are entitled to force their will upon others. I have lived in this community for 22 years, and I'm a fourth generation Idahoan. My children were both born in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And so there's a lot of false claims that, the people that have lived here longer than you. I'd like to know someone that's lived in Idaho longer than me, because I'm 39 years and counting. But besides the point, the Kootenai County Task Force and Wayne Longo and the city police worked very hard to get Richard Butler and his ilk out of Coeur d'Alene. They were very patient, and I've seen the documentary The Color of Conscience. If you guys need a reminder on why this type of hateful symbol shouldn't be welcome here in North Idaho, I recommend you watch The Color of Conscience again, if you haven't already seen it. I just don't know what's going on here. This is the second time a communist symbol has come before our city. The first time was the hammer and sickle, and that was removed because of how divisive it was. I've said previously, as leaders of our community, in a representative government, if you want to lessen the divisiveness that we are experiencing in our city, part of that responsibility falls on you.
Thank you, Randy. Mike Berton? Mike? Welcome, Mike.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you letting me have the opportunity to speak, even though I didn't put my address down. I'm also another one. We're pretty active in the community and different things, and we've received a lot of death threats and stuff, and we think that is very sad. But, these fine folks have said quite a bit here. Actually, they stole my thunder. So the only thing I can do is add to a few things that maybe possibly, because I am a veteran. Why in the world would we want to put any symbol up that would create division and hate and discontent that would hurt so many people? Art is a beautiful thing. Art is meant to provoke a thought or enjoyment. There is zero good that could come from an object like this. A swastika is not art. Okay, you know what the artist interpretation of what this piece would be? I would probably suggest that the majority of the free world would seriously argue with the artist's interpretation of what this piece would be. Because that piece represents hate, division, oppression, everything that he says that he stands against. I call BS on that. But you know what? Any of us, we all want to stand together, all races, all creeds, whatever. Here in North Idaho, does anybody really want to attach their name to something like that? Why would we create division? We've got enough of that already. It's time for all of us to stand up together as Americans and not disrespect everybody that's put on a uniform and fought, lost limbs to make sure that this country is safe, to put up a symbol of communism? Come on. Now, who wants to attach your name to it? Any one of you? Don't answer, because hopefully we all know. Listen, we're all about freedom of speech. That's what makes this country great. But we're not, I mean, would it be okay for us to hang up, show, severed limbs and experiments that the Holocaust victims went through and just re-tag it and call it art? That is not art. That is not. So anyway, like I said, these fine folks, they stole my thunder. I just wanted to add my 2 cents in. Don't disrespect the veterans who stood up and fought for all of us so we could sit on our comfortable asses here and even have this conversation. Thank you. I'm out.
Thank you. Marty Manton or Martin? I'm not sure which. Welcome, sir.
Hi. In the history of the communist movement, over 100 million people were slaughtered. Genocide from communist China to the Soviet Union to Poland, back and forth. Over 100 million victims of communist oppression. Under Nazism, there was a fraction of 100 million massacred. If you're willing to consider a symbol of a movement that slaughtered 100 million people worldwide, why wouldn't you consider commissioning an artist to have a sculpture of Hitler? Is there any difference? What is the difference? Is there anybody on this stage that would approve artwork of a swastika? Anybody there? But you're willing to consider approving artwork for a symbol of 100 million genocided worldwide. There is no way on earth that any rational person in charge of a city can justify approving a symbol where the victims constituted maybe 50 times, or maybe less, but you're not going to have a swastika. So why would you have this sculpture? Wouldn't it be refreshing for once to have somebody in a position of power to commission a sculpture of Sam Adams, the father of the American Revolution? Wow, how extremist. Sam Adams, who we never would have had a Declaration of Independence without Sam Adams, who was way ahead of his time. We wouldn't even be here. The idea, and I hear this lady talking about the oppressed. Oh, the oppressed. What about the oppressed patriots in D.C. now? No charges. All they did is protest. You have men, women, and children whose lives have been destroyed by federal oppression. And she's whining about oppression. The people she's talking about are not oppressed. It's people on our side that are bearing the brunt of oppression. But if you can't consider a Hitler sculpture, then you can't consider a communist sculpture.
Thank you. Brad Cree.
City Council, my name is Brad Cree. I live at 5447 West Cougar Gulch Road. Just wanted that on record in case anybody has something to say afterwards. I am a veteran. I served my country, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my brother. A lot of people put their ass on the line. My dad taught me to be considerate, and I have defended that flag. I have honorably burned that flag, and I've also protected others' rights to burn that flag in protest. I do believe that there could be a middle ground, and I'd like to present it to you this evening. In that I am a believer of art, no matter how controversial it is. And I would like to pay the $1,000 for that piece of art to be set out under my conditions so that people could see it. Now, I had already started constructing a toilet, and I would like to set that piece of art within that toilet and make it a public urinal. So my offer stands, and I will pay the $800 a year to keep it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Linda Putz. Linda?
First of all, I want to say thank you very much because I do appreciate the fact that you did allow us to speak. I appreciate that you took that time. So according to Wikipedia, the raised fist statue is a long-standing image of mixed meaning, often a symbol of political solidarity. It is also a common symbol of communism, socialism, and other revolutionary social movements. We know it is a symbol of communists, socialists, BLM, the Black Panthers. Amy Evans at that meeting said she was energized by the piece. Is that the same type of energy that caused the death of over 100 million people at the hands of communists and other oppressors who used a clenched fist as their symbol of solidarity while raining oppression and death upon innocent people? Dan English, you want us to respect the Art Commission. How about respecting the oppressed and the citizens of Coeur d'Alene? Mike Gridley is promoting Coeur d'Alene rejects hate t-shirts. This piece of art spews hate. Shame on this Art Commission for even bringing this piece to be voted on. Bev Moss said it could be a controversial piece, and Jennifer Drake agreed, but she didn't care. She laughed and said that some people will complain, but oh well. The commission unanimously approved this piece because I believe they are intimidated by her. Jennifer says that no one read the artist's intent. When driving or walking by, who in the world is going to know the intent? This is preposterous to expect anyone to think.
Linda, stop. No, you don't get to criticize people. If you want to criticize the issue, criticize the issue.
I'm making a statement of fact. I'm not criticizing her. I am making a statement of fact. This is the same Jennifer Drake, whose Facebook page has a picture of a devil demon putting a little boy in a basket while his sister sits on the ground nearby, holding a basket of apples with shackles on the ground nearby, alluding to the children being kidnapped against theirs or their parents' will.
Okay, you're back to
There is also a
criticizing
cartoon
somebody.
photo of Jennifer wearing a black cape with the words "Catholic." Is this the type of person we want on
Linda.
our Arts Commission? I'm giving you facts from her Facebook.
No, you're giving me your opinion of her.
And gladly had 2 fundraising events where they said,
Linda, step down now. Officers, would you please take her? You need to remove her.
Mocking those of us who are political refugees.
Get ready to go.
Resign, and if she doesn't, then you, Mr. Mayor, need to demand her resignation. This city is going to become Seattle, Portland, or San Francisco on your watch. The commission's agenda seems to want to, through art, normalize socialism, oppression, and commission for
Linda?
freedom-loving Americans. Isn't that why Abby Light was
Your time is up.
normalize comic porn? I
Mic's
never
off.
saw a countdown. So we have comic porn
foreign hammer and sickle artwork that's since been removed, and now a clenched fist, which is known for promoting communism and oppression as a symbol of art in our beautiful community. Shame on the Arts Commission for this city council to refute that. Thank you, Linda. Truth is always truth, no matter what. Truth is
Linda?
A sentence of the Wikipedia definition.
Linda, I've given you more leeway than anybody else ever. And
Trespasser.
Norman Loeffler.
First of all, I
Now-
want to say my name is Dr. Norman H. Loeffler, MD. I'm a retired urologist. I've lived in this community 22 years, and I outrank all of you. I'm 93 and a half years old, and I served during the Cold War, if you know anything about it, and I've been to art museums all over the world, including Russia, where they have the artwork that they stole from the Nazis. Where they stole from the Nazis. I want to say, I'm not going to argue about, it was in 2019 that this communist symbol was up, and I know about communism, I was there. What I want to do is make some positive suggestions. What's happened to this community, and I love it, and I'm sorry if I get emotional about this, but you've been spending our tax money here. You started with the park here, where you put up $115,000 archway, and then the lights didn't work, and we spent another $15,000. The Art Commission also put up, after the communist symbol, they bought a $10,000 piece of art. They had no appraisal on it. They haven't had appraisals on other stuff, and I asked the gentleman over here about this, and they didn't get an appraisal. When you buy art, you get appraisals. Now, I've studied art. I went to Washington University in St. Louis, college and medical school, and we had a foremost artist there that literally wrote the Bible on art history, H.W. Jansen, in case you're not familiar. And this art commission, I told them when they put up that communist symbol, they all should have resigned because they don't know about art. I grant you that art is in the eyes of the beholder, but what they're putting up is mainly sculptures all over the city. My suggestions are the following. Instead of using the money, and now you've spent $80,000 on that piece of junk overlooking the 4th Street parking garage. First of all, what we ought to do is educate the young people, and so they're not out being depressed and so forth. Spend some of the money, for example, into art history in the libraries. Have a celebration of art, and instead of what you're doing this way, you could get DVDs on Norman Rockwell. I have one here on the art history of the Western world, and if what happened in Europe after World War II, where the Nazis stole the art, and we had the monument men go around to return the art to the things. By the way, the Russians still have the Nazi art there. They've not returned it. I've been to the Hermitage Museum in Leningrad, which is now called St. Petersburg. I was there in 1960.
Turn around.
I was there in 1960, and I saw that art. The monument men here wouldn't steal this art. This is junk that you're putting up. So my suggestions are this. Besides, we have a history museum. Besides that, put a wing on there. Think out of the box. Put a wing on there, starting an art museum. Spokane Valley has apparently a Spokane Valley Heritage Museum where they have a Smithsonian exhibit now going on. We could have exhibits here. This art commission is not thinking out of the box. All they're doing is spending our money on sculpture things. Another thing is our symphony that we have is a good symphony. It needs to be supported. I can think of so many other ways of spending the money instead of what you're all approving. I've been to some of your meetings here, and without being disrespectful to you, only one vote is against all this. If you want to know about art, get some education. I'm still getting education. I've taken courses, and this could be available in the library here. So what I'm saying is the money needs to be spent differently. I'm not talking about the communist symbol. And by the way, the gentleman that brought up about the Nazi symbol, I'm of Jewish heritage and proud of it. And I saw the first concentration camp, and it wasn't Jews that were killed there, it was Dachau. And I saw the ovens, and people deny that. And that was back in 1959 when I was in the Air Force. And I was in communist Russia in 1960. So I've had experience, and I just hate to see what's happening in this city in terms of this. Other suggestions, I'd have several, but I think you're approving what the unintelligent art commission is, and they don't even know the basic art history that I'm talking about. And as I say, we ought to have good art. Some of the art could be reproduced art in terms of pictures. That it doesn't, and you know, the other fellows talked about how they did art. I've done one oil painting one time, but all I'm saying is you can get reproduced pictures I brought along of good art. People don't understand that, and that's what this city needs.
Thank you.
Anyhow, thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you for taking the time tonight.
The reference to Mr. Jansen, he was head of the Metropolitan Museum of Art also, besides at Washington U.
Kenny Moore? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Hammond, City Council members, and you citizens. I've heard a lot of things tonight, and it gets down to art in this area started when I came to this area in 2000. The first thing I saw was this new art exhibit down at McEwen Field. They paid a lot of money for it. It didn't work. It cost $25,000 to get it to work. Additionally, that's a lot of money. To pay for art, I understand that the citizens do not pay for art. I was told that by the people on the art board and several other people here in the town. I want to tell you, everything eventually comes down to the citizens paying for what they get, be it through grants, be it through whatever. It always comes back to the taxpayer paying for what is bought or purchased. We've heard about development levies and all these other things. It always comes back to the citizen. The artwork, I went down last year on the art walk on the north shore of Lake Coeur d'Alene. I went through the entire exhibit down there. Have you been? Has anybody been? Sure. You should do it. Sure. It's an embarrassment. I believe most citizens feel as I do. I haven't heard many comments around the county or the city or this place since I've been here, and I'm in many organizations in this area. I believe that most citizens feel the same way I do. I assume there are adults on the commission. I assume that. I'm not so sure. Correct this issue. You have the authority and the power to do that. Correct this and make this right for our city and for this county. Thank you for the time. Thank you.
Nope. Bill Green? Bill?
Thank you very much for the time and for you guys' service. I wasn't even aware that this was a topic tonight when I came to the meeting. But now that I am, I did think I wanted to make a couple comments. One is that a lot of people look to the United States in history as a very inviting place. And a lot of people want to come here. And I think one of the reasons is that because our society has always been thought of as a free society, a place where people could develop ambitions, have a dream, have a goal, work hard, and accomplish something for themselves and their families based on the principle that each person is just wonderfully loved and cherished in the depths of their hearts. So I'm kind of thinking that when you think about art, art is just such an amazing experience in the human world. And art is always based on something spiritual, something invisible, something about meaning. And it lifts people's spirits, it gives them encouragement, it inspires them to take on hard tasks, and sometimes it gives them the courage to go into very hard-fought battles because they believe in something way beyond what they're just seeing with their five senses. And I think about the veterans and the police and the fire, people that I've known who lay their lives down to help others, no matter what the cost. And those are all spiritual things. They're all invisible values. And our whole country and society, when you look back on the Constitution, the Declaration, the founders, all of whom were quite young, very intellectual, and had all of them some sort of spiritual connection, some sort of interest in what really makes the world tick beyond what we see with our senses. So I think that art is a wonderful opportunity to present those values. Our country has values which are envied by many other countries. And art, if you want to really do art in a city, in a community, why not do art that represents those values? Why not do art that inspires people to want to give of themselves for others, to want to be of service, to want to recognize that hard work and sacrifice is something that's very worthwhile and leads to a lot of wonderful outcomes. So the idea of this fist or the communist symbol, it is true that many conferences I've been to, many posters I've seen, this idea of power, truth to power, or power against the government, the revolutionary urge, is somehow based on the notion that the government's all wrong, that whoever's running things needs to be replaced. But in our society, we have a whole different view that government is for the people. Government is based on its spiritual principles of representative government, of people who have votes and can voice their opinion and have honest, respectful debates and come to a conclusion that works good for most of the people. So I think it's really important that when you consider artwork, you ask yourselves that question. Does this represent a value that we want to promote and preserve and help people inculcate into their own thinking? Or does it something more that's going to create problems? Some people have used the word division. Divide and conquer is some of what some revolutionaries like to do. So there's nothing wrong with our principles of our country. We need art that represents that pushes that promotes that. I'm going way over time here. Anyway, thanks for your time and thanks for your service.
Thanks, Bill. That closes the public comment section, and we'll move on to approving a construction management agreement. Captain Hager?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. What I bring before you tonight is a request to approve a contract with Coeur West Construction for pre-construction services for the expansion of the Coeur d'Alene Police Station. This was previously brought to you, and you funded it through the ARPA funds. This is just the pre-construction phase, and we will come back to you once the contractor has worked with our design services to come up with the plans for the final amount that will be entered into with the CMGC agreement.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Christie?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is something that we have seen before, and I don't have any questions. I'm ready to make a motion. Of course, I would listen to questions in our discussion, but, so I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 22-33, approving construction manager, general contractor, CMGC, contract with Coeur West Incorporated in the amount of $40,000 for pre-construction services.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Discussion of the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin? English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next is approval of, this is the one,
Here it is.
of the art pieces.
Oh gosh, I don't know how to make this wake up though. Okay, here we go. Okay. So the City of Coeur d'Alene's Art Commission came together and put out a call to artists for the local artists. You had to be in the state of Idaho, Montana, Utah, Wyoming, Washington, Oregon, or the Providence, Canadian Providence or British Columbia. And we put out a call in early June and went till July. We did get 11 art piece submissions. We met as a small committee, went through them, brought forward 7 pieces, discussed them at the Arts Commission meeting, and then these 6 pieces were asked to be brought forward for council for approval for the Arts Commission, or for the art currents. So the art currents are displayed on city property for a year or 2 years. They are given a $1,000 stipend for their first year, $800 for their second, and it is then gives the citizens or the public the opportunity to purchase the artwork, and because the artwork is sitting on city property, the city would receive a stipend for that. That's the intent of the art currents. So the first art current is this, the Dove, Mi Paloma II. The artist has it priced at $8,000. I guess also, the art is placed on city property. We don't have specific spots picked out just yet. We go to Bill Greenwood, our parks and department head, and then kind of find some good spots for all these places. The next one is called Rains. This is O'Keefe 8 and 9. It is made out of a marble slab. And both these pieces are actually separate pieces, but are part of a series that the artist has brought to us. This is the largest piece that we would have in our arts currents. It's a very nice big elk made of metal. And this is, I believe, the last piece. So those are the pieces that we are bringing forward. Council does have the ability to approve all, none, or some.
Questions for Stephanie? Go ahead.
Stephanie, would you just take a minute and describe the process and the community volunteers who lend their time to help make the selection, and that it's first the first group, and then it goes to the Arts Commission, and then it comes to us?
Correct. So the first group of the committee that it was brought together was a group of different artists and citizens of the community that were willing to come and help. And we sent out invites to, I believe, 10 people. We had 5 people that were able to make it. It's hard. It's 3 o'clock in a Tuesday afternoon, so we understand, but they all came together. We went through all of the art pieces that were selected. We discussed the location of where the artist was to make sure that they did qualify during the call, discussed the sizes of the pieces, and just went through each and every piece. From there, they selected these pieces, and then we went to the Arts Commission committee, and at our Tuesday meeting the following week, I believe, and then said, these are the ones out of the ones that were submitted through the cafe that we brought forward to, that we enjoyed the most.
Thank you.
Woody? Oh, I'm sorry. Go
I just
ahead.
have one more thing to add. I think it's important to note this because I've mentioned it here before. I really encourage, if you're interested in serving on one of these commissions or committees, a subcommittee of the Arts Commission, I'd be happy to recommend you in that place. It's a great opportunity to review the art and have a say.
Is that-
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Woody?
Stephanie, so there's prices on these. We are not buying these, are we?
No, 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 we are not buying these. The prices that are put on are what the artist would sell them for, like in their own, if they had a studio or something. And so that price would be, if you wanted to buy that piece of art, you would have to pay $12,500.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Kiki?
Stephanie, at one point, we had conversations about the artist intent and the story behind this piece being part of the art's current program. Has there been any movement in that so that the public would have a way to read about what they were thinking and the history of this art piece?
Sure. So it's really hard for us to put plaques on these because they're only here for a very short amount of time. But on our website, there's always an opportunity to be able to pick up and know exactly what the artist's intent was.
So is the website listed like on the piece somewhere now, or so that they can follow up? If they wanted to know the history of it, they could follow up with what was going on?
Absolutely, and reach out to staff at the city. We have all of this. We could provide it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dan?
Somebody had mentioned that they hadn't seen this before, so they're, curious what it looks like, but I assume these have been out on the website for a while?
They are not currently posted on our website because they're not part of our current until you guys approve it.
Okay. Well, I guess I
has
would
to be
just say for future, when it's going to come up, although it was on there because it was in the council packet.
It is in the packet,
because I read it. But, yeah, I think that's something we could probably improve on. And then for the piece, if they do come out, we wouldn't have to have a big bronze plaque, but these days when I go to
Is that your phone?
buy, something at Walmart or something, they got one of those little, boxes of a QR code, and you can put your camera there, and then all of a sudden you got the information. So it seems like that's something, since there's a lot of public interest in that and in intent, that we ought to do something about making sure that information is out there in every way we can and in as advance as we can. So,
Yeah, the
thanks.
QR code's a good idea.
Other comments? Yes.
I don't have any questions of Stephanie, so thank you, though. But mostly, I guess, we'll just have discussion amongst the council on this
Are we there?
topic.
Yeah.
Well, we've listened to a lot of testimony tonight, and it's really heartfelt, almost all of it. There were some that maybe not so heartfelt, more anger, but that comes from the heart, too. This is always a very difficult position because some of you want 7 elected officials to decide for you and our community what art they'll look at. We've heard people tell us what books we should allow our community to read, what music to listen to. I remember the Nelly concert from, a year ago. I don't think you want your elected officials telling you what to look at. With that said, though, I do think we have a responsibility to not be divisive and to not purposely cause people pain. I believe the artist, when they came up with this piece, really does believe that they're promoting solidarity. I don't have any doubt of that. But I think we have to be careful with messaging, always, and how we make people feel, if we can. I struggle with censorship at all. I don't like that. That's not the role of government. And many of you know that I work in the human rights field in my private life. And in the past, the Kootenai County Task Force on Human Relations, we did speak out against the hammer and sickle, not because we wanted to be in charge of censorship, not ever, but because we knew how it made people feel, people that had lived in that kind of oppression. So we didn't feel that we could support that being put up in our community, just because of how hurtful it was. So this is kind of reminding me of that, again, even though we all see art differently. And again, I do think that the artist had solidarity in mind, but it's quite clear that this symbol's been co-opted by a number of different groups. Just like elected officials that flash the OK sign, we call them white supremacists. People will co-opt symbols. But sometimes when it's just too much, and it's too much in your face, and something is done that comes across as antagonistic to certain members of our community, I think that's a time for the council to have good discussion about, is this the right thing to do at this time to move forward with the particular piece? Dr. Leffler, I thought you had some great suggestions. Maybe a private exhibit, because we don't want to deny people the right to look at art. And so I guess I would like to look at some of those kind of ideas of when could we offer a private exhibit so people could see it, but also we are mindful of being divisive and harming how other people feel.
Dan? Yeah, hold on just a second. Any more questions for Stephanie?
So you can sit down.
Was this a question for Stephanie, Dan?
Nope, I thought we were done. I would
So
say let her sit.
Let Stephanie sit down, and we'll continue the discussion. Dan?
Thanks. Well, I appreciate this discussion too. There were a lot of comments tonight that talked about respect for veterans police and some of their status. I'm not a veteran, although we have had 2 adult children who are veterans, 20-year Navy corpsman and about a 5-year term in the Army. They served 3 tours in Iraq between them, during the time. Our daughter is buried at Miramar National Cemetery, Veteran Cemetery. So I'm respectful of veterans. I'm a former sworn officer myself, have taught police, support the police. So that, I'm willing to give my creds on that. Artist's intent, and I'm glad at least somebody mentioned that tonight, because, we can all have our idea of something, but if you really want to know what the intent was, you go to the author and look at that, just like a whole lot of people, unfortunately, misquote scripture, or at least maybe they quote it correctly, but they apply all kinds of meanings that I don't think are anywhere in the author's intent, but that's what people do, what they can do. I read the artist's intent, and, it definitely is positive. Is that symbol? It's been used for different things, and yeah, it has. At the same time, somebody mentioned, the black athletes in the Mexico Olympics. I was young there. That was an inspirational moment to me that made me stop and think about because it was a very controversial thing, and people, I think, had to stop and take a look and wrestle with some things. And of course, that's part of what art does too. And I remember some of the labor movements that they use it, and some very good things came out of that. So that's part of what art does, is it's going to be controversial and it's going to stir up some feelings. So I guess in some ways it's successful. It did that. I've heard some of the things about, maybe we're going to break this off or have, I don't know what, we'd have an adult section for controversial pieces of art. That wouldn't be where I would want to go. But and stepping back, we have 6 pieces that got looked at, and I think that it's a great range of things, and I think that the raised fist, given the background and that, is an appropriate piece to have as part of the package. But I'm glad that we didn't set it aside. I'm glad we had the discussion tonight and took the time with the folks, and so we'll see where that goes.
Thank you. Just a minute, Dan. I've heard tonight several times, and over the years, I did not serve, but my 4 oldest brothers did. And I think that's why Mom and Dad said, okay, that's enough. But 2 of my best friends, closest friends, both served in Vietnam. And most folks don't want to share their stories. They did share their stories with me. And one of the most important things to me that I heard tonight was that disrespect that might be put forth by this display toward our veterans that served. And that is something I never want to do. And disrespect towards people who experienced the terrors of communism. I don't want to do that. And so if can't applaud for me either. I think as the council considers this, and as Jennifer said, it's okay that we pull a piece and not approve all the pieces. I would be one that would really encourage the council to consider pulling this piece, mainly because of that feeling of disrespect toward veterans. Dan?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution number 22034, approving a selection of art pieces for the 2022 Art Currents program and authorizing the execution of the art display agreements with the exception of the artwork called Solidarity.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. Dan?
Mr.
Discussion
Mayor,
on the
so
motion?
we got a lot of email about this as well. And there were several emails that I received where they were in unquestionable support of this art piece. And they said that it would really belong in Coeur d'Alene because they view Coeur d'Alene as a welcoming community. And I was reminded by something that Gandhi said. And Gandhi's one of the individuals I admire greatly. Gandhi said, "You cannot shake hands with a clenched fist."
Is that it?
That's it.
Kiki?
I just have a few things that I just wanted to make a note of. One is that I think that it's very interesting, and I'm very appreciative that even amongst this group of people, they all had different views of why they didn't like it or did like it, and that's what art does. Very heated conversations. I get disappointed with the disrespectfulness and all of that, but I understand that everyone's very passionate about art and how that works. I wanted to make a note that I think Councilmember Gookin and myself are both in alliance with Dr. Loeffler in that we'd like to see funding move into some of the other arts, the performing arts, and some of those other things. So I appreciate those comments being made, and this gives us an opportunity to kind of feel like the citizens are aligned with some of the discussions we've had. I wanted to note that I had looked up earlier some of the definitions of what this clenched fist mean, and although the definition from Wikipedia was read out loud, the last sentence of it wasn't included, which said it's also used to express unity, strength, or resistance. And then National Geographic calls it a human rights salute. Mandela and his wife used it as a symbol of their struggle against apartheid. And there's just, the BBC calls it a signifier of individual and collective defiance globally. So there's just a lot of definitions and a lot of way you could view a piece of art like this. I heard there was a video made or something. I didn't see all of that. So I try to get a feel for whether did this group collectively all see the video and become like-minded because of that. So those are some of the thoughts that are running through my mind about this. Art is often controversial. It's one of the things that spurs us on to have discussions about the different perspectives of it. But what I really boiled it down to is there's a lot of divisiveness in this community, and my big question is it worth it? So those are my comments.
Yes.
Well, I agree with what Kiki just said, and actually what all my fellow council members have said. I do want to take a minute, though, to acknowledge the work of the committee and the Arts Commission. I know their values. I know their commitment to our community. This is a group of educated, passionate individuals who are truly working to pick pieces for the community to enjoy. I believe that they were following the artist's intent of creating a symbol of solidarity. Now, we've heard from you tonight, we've heard from others, that that's not seen in an equal light, right? We all have different perspective on this piece. I also know that the Arts Commission and the subcommittee would not want to bring in a piece that caused future divisiveness. So I'm comfortable supporting this motion.
Dan?
Well, just again, I certainly wouldn't support that piece because I in any way think it somehow represents, a communist symbol. Now, could have been in the past, sure. Can people see it that way? Sure. Just like I really, really respect our flag, but one of the things I really dislike, and I think is one of the most disrespectful things I see every day, is pickups with big old giant American flags hanging out the back. Now, if they were there, and it was done in a respectful way, that's one thing. But they run them around until they're ragtag, dirty, all kinds of weather, and that is the last sign of respect. So, but at the same time, I believe that those people think that they're being respectful to it. They obviously haven't read basic flag etiquette, but I believe that that's that. But, I'm not going to vote to remove this one. I might be the only one, and it's certainly not because I think that's a communist symbol or something, but I know my two veterans would support it. Anyway, that's all. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor.
Christie?
Well, I think we have had the discussion that we don't want to be in the position of censorship. It's a terrible feeling. So we're trying to find our way here. And I don't know if there would be room in your motion for a consideration by the Arts Commission of a private exhibit somewhere, so that we're not censoring. Doesn't need to be public art. People who want to see it could see it. Again, I don't think you want your government telling you what to read, what to look at, what to listen to. We need to be sensitive to how this affects you. But I don't know that that's the role you should have your government take.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as a writer, of course, I'm going to be totally against any form of censorship. This is a process, and to call making a decision censorship means that it would effectively restrict us from ever voting against anything. No, it's just a decision, and the decision is the piece is controversial. We recognize that. We're not inhibiting the artist from selling the piece here. He still can do that. He can go to any private gallery and put the piece up. But I think there is a sensitivity here that the mayor mentioned and others have mentioned that that's why we have a public process and why some pieces may not come forward. I mean, it could not come forward just for the reason that it could be butt ugly. I mean, we could say that too. I served on some of these art committees, and I agree with Amy. I mean, sign up for them. Some of them, it's really eye-opening to see the process and how this works and the different opinions offered. And it's all just opinions. But when you have something like this that touches a sensitive area, like the one lady mentioned early on, we wouldn't have a picture of the Nazi salute or a statue of that unless it was part of a collection and had a narrative and a history behind it. This doesn't. I think it's a trigger piece. I think that's why it was selected. And I don't want to put it in the community because I don't think it's welcoming. That would be, my thing. Not censoring an artist, just saying it's not what I would consider part of our public art collection.
I'm going to ask the clerk to take the roll, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
you guys have been running now. I got just a couple quickies.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't
I'm out
realize
here
you
on
still
the
wanted
edge here.
something.
So
You
I'm
got to
think-
raise your hand a little higher.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking back about 2000, when the first feathers went on Northwest Boulevard. That was our big art thing, and boy, it was a big screamer, as I recall. I think I was on planning and zoning at that time. And I had a hard time trying to wrap my head around feathers. I mean, I liked them, they were pretty, but art and feathers, it didn't jive with me. I've been struggling with art for the last 20 years, trying to understand what it does, what it's supposed to do, are we right, are we wrong? And I remember somebody giving me advice going, well, art is sort of in the eyes of the beholder, and if they're talking about it, they like it or don't like it, it creates the conversation. So I thought, well, that's a pretty safe place to be, right, for somebody like me. Tonight, I heard words I haven't heard, or maybe I choose not to hear them, the disrespect and divisiveness and division in our community. I guess it's been going on and I live in a happy place or something, but I think we're on the right track to, that doesn't fit the model here. It just doesn't. Why would we want to stir the pot if we didn't have to? And I agree with you, Dan. You kind of put it in a perspective where we're not doing what's the symbols of censorship and things like that. That's not what I believe the art is all about. Even though we've had some weird stuff, don't kid me. But I think it's weird and somebody else likes it, So I'm going to support this without the doodah hand thing.
I've got to make one more comment. Whoever put the thing on the website that showed my picture and that the mayor was going to decide this. First of all, the mayor doesn't decide this. But secondly, I have to look at my mug every morning to shave. Please don't put that on the website. It's sad enough when you get it this old and you have to look at it anyway. Clerk, take the roll, please.
Guggen.
Yes.
English.
No.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Motion carries. We'll move on to, actually, we're going to take about
Now it takes a break.
5-minute break.
Good, okay.
Guess we're not going to national.
Now
Good evening and welcome to this continuation of the Coeur d'Alene City Council meeting. We are now at item 3, a resolution approving professional services agreement for the Independence Point stormwater improvements. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me before you tonight. Tonight, I'm bringing another contract to you, this time with Coeur Associates. As you remember, we got HMH Engineering to do one of our DEQ-funded stormwater improvement projects, and that's the Sanders Beach 11th Street Marina project, and they're working on that now. We're nearing final design on that one to remove some of our stormwater that goes to the lake. And so another one that we were awarded funding by DEQ for phosphorus reduction going to the lake was the Independence Point outfall. And so this orange drainage area here approximates the drainage area that goes to the to the Independence Point outfall, which if you look over the wall near the resort, you can see it here. It's pouring out. I tried to zoom in a little bit so you can see it. It's pretty hard to see there. But with this one, we're probably going to look at a combination of different stormwater management techniques, maybe some underground, maybe some swale, maybe some filters. We're not sure yet, but that's why we're getting an engineering firm to tackle this one. And so Coeur Associates was on our stormwater category for on-call services, and so we got a scope of work from them and fee, and that's what we bring before you tonight. And so I ask that you would approve this professional services agreement with Coeur Associates for this Independence Point stormwater outfall reduction project.
Cool. Woody?
Couple questions. You know, I love stormwater. I love grassy swales. I love all the stuff you guys do with all this dirt and stuff. Couple questions. That's a lot of space. Is that as much as that's going over on the highway, the newest one you guys did?
This one is actually less. This would be about 1/3 of that size.
Really?
But we don't have the big open area to build a huge swale like that. So that's why we're going to look at a combination of things. And maybe we won't be able to get all of the stormwater diverted from the outfall, but any that we divert is helpful.
It's also, you're at kind of the lowest point in the city, aren't you? So, I mean, all that stuff runs down. I was trying to think of, you know, we have that right away in the entrance to the marina. There's First Street still, I think that's still accessible right away for the city, yes? All the green?
Yes, yes.
So theoretically, you could go under there with your filter jobs, right?
Correct. We also have to look at what the floodplain, where that interacts with all of this, and, you know, just trying to use make the best use of public space.
And you're trying to, you're trying to take it out of the lake, so it has to go somewhere where it'll perk through, okay. Just an interesting one. I look at all that space and I go, do we have a lot of dirt for something like that? Does it work under parking lots?
Yes, yes. In a case like that, we could use something like the R tanks that we used on Kathleen, or with the Sanders Beach outfall project, we're actually looking at a modified version of that, using dry wells with the same sand compost mixture under them and around them, and that way it's a cheaper way to get the same filtration.
Nice. So you're feeling pretty good that 36,000 will get us a good plan? These guys have done this before?
Yes, yes, they were pre-approved on our on-call list, and the 36,000 isn't going to take us to the finish line. It's going to give us some good ideas to boil down and then head to the finish line with that.
Right.
So.
And we don't plan on having to buy any dirt?
No.
I mean,
correct.
Property.
Correct.
All right. Thanks. Great job.
Thank you.
Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
To approve resolution number 22-035, approving a professional services agreement with Coeur Associates for Independence Point stormwater improvements.
Second.
A motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, will the clerk take the roll, please?
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Preliminary budget for fiscal year 22-23.
Do you want to just make a motion and we can call it a night?
It's like this affects them more than the artwork, and they're all gone.
Yes.
All right. So, good evening. Tonight, we're seeking approval of Resolution 22-036, which sets a public hearing date of September 6th for the annual appropriation ordinance. And this sets the high budget dollar amount for the fiscal year 22-23 budget of $123,852,624. Unfortunately, we have not received numbers from the county for the city's new growth for next year, but we have set the amount in the resolution high enough to be able to capture the amount once we receive those numbers. The resolution does incorporate taking the 3% allowed by the state, which amounts to $710,000. In the past 9 years, the city was allowed to increase property tax portion of the budget by 27%, 3% per year. During that period, the council increased the budget 5.5%. The recommendation to take this in fiscal year 22-23 is due to the decrease in the amount the city is allowed to take from the closing of the Lake District urban renewal. If the city council agrees to this, the city will still be returning approximately $1 million to its citizens. This is not a tax increase. This is the only way the state has allowed the city to retain the urban renewal tax dollars and allow new growth to pay for itself. This slide shows dollars obtained from new growth year over year. This is a good example of how new growth becomes less as the levy rate drops. 2016 new growth was $828,000 compared to 2022, which was $316,000. The levy rate in 2022 was $3.48 per thousand and was 6.9 cents in 2016. The higher levy rate would have generated an additional $236,000 in fiscal year 21-22. The resolution includes $891,000 in property taxes from the urban renewal closing and $975,000 as a placeholder for new growth. As you can see, we estimated it much higher than last year, and we'll probably need to do some budget trimming once we get actual new growth numbers from the county. Sorry. The projections for unassigned fund balance at the end of this year is $1.1 million. If we continue on with that projection, using the budgeted revenues and expenses that are included in this resolution, we have a projected fund balance of $9.7 million at the end of 22-23, which is 17% of budgeted expenses and about $500,000 higher than 2 months of revenue. The significant revenue changes that are included in this resolution include a total of $2.5 million in additional property taxes while still returning approximately $1 million back to the taxpayers thanks to the closing of the Lake District. A slight increase in the use of fund balance, a $1.6 million increase in state funding, which includes sales tax, gas tax, and liquor tax, and over $5.4 million in federal funding. The significant changes to expenses year over year.
Well, hang on, Vonnie, could you go back to that slide? So you mentioned earlier that there were some numbers you didn't have, so you just kind of put in values. Which one of those would be the values you put in?
That would be the $975,000.
Okay, so that's, you think, is that high or is that low?
I believe that's high.
Oh, really? So it could come in lower than that?
I do believe it will, yeah.
And how does that affect us in the revenue column? This goes down?
Well, we'd have to trim some expenses probably, or else go into fund balance to fund the.
Okay, thank you.
So the significant changes to expenses year over year include merit increases of $171,000, a 5% cost of living adjustment in the amount of $1.4 million, a very slight increase in health insurance of $160,000, which that's really good news. Additional staff of $500,000 and increase in service and supplies of just over $2 million. 60% of this increase is automation and software licensing and an increase in overlay funding. Capital outlay is increased by $5.5 million. completely being paid for with federal grant funds and fund balance.
When you projected the use of fuels, what was your price of gas?
I don't know that we actually had one.
We looked at the gallonage, and then we probably put an escalator of about 35%, hoping that it would come down now that we've seen the barrel price come down a little bit. So
How does that compare to prior years?
It would be greater than prior years based on the way that it increased.
Okay, thank you.
The proposed personnel changes include a communications specialist in administration, an IT technician in municipal services, an applications analyst in the police department, an HEO, heavy equipment operator, and electrician apprentice in the street department, one firefighter, and 2 maintenance workers and a department support position in the Parks Department. As you can see from the slide, the Streets and Parks Department are reorganizing as they are unable to hire part-time help this fiscal year. This slide is a list of the capital purchases that are included in the preliminary budget. The majority of these funds would go to the police station expansion, self-contained breathing apparatus in the fire department, and a remodel of the street department's shop building. This next list shows the expenses that staff is proposing would be paid for using federal grant funds. The council has already agreed to use almost half of this amount to fund the police department station expansion. This slide, I think I'm off a slide. The slide lists the proposed use of federal grant funds in the current fiscal year and also going forward into fiscal year 23-24. Fiscal year 23-24 would require an additional expense of $1.6 million for the police station expansion, as this will be at least a 2-year project. Next council meeting, when the budget amendment comes to you for approval, it will include federal grant fund for the dump truck that the council approved to be bought by the street department and the wireless AP replacement project that municipal services is working on. With that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Questions? Kiki?
So, first of all, I apologize for the glasses. I'm having a medical issue, and the lights just caused me a lot of trauma. So,
They're cool. You look cool.
feel a little awkward, but it's the best I can do. The remaining ARPA dollars that are on this budget of the 508, 128, is that money earmarked for anything, or is it for upcoming requests? And or if it isn't all used, can it be moved to possible change orders in the police station project or something like that?
Yes, yeah, it's completely undesignated for anything. Well, really, all of it except the police station is, because it's still up to you as to how you want to spend that, so.
Okay, but in this plan, it's flexible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Christie?
Thank you. Kiki, that was my question as well, so thanks for asking that. So if it is something that could fund some of the capital request, then that would free up other money to pay for the personnel we're looking at, right?
Well, no, not really, because the ARPA money is one-time money, and all of those positions are ongoing, so it's only going to pay for it for a year or two, and then you have to figure out another way to get the revenue for it. That's why we're earmarking it for just capital expenses.
Thank you.
Dan?
So this is the last of the ARPA. Are there any other potential, I mean, they've passed some other federal measures. Is there anything else that might be on the horizon or not really?
I believe there's some money through the state for street projects, some water and wastewater projects. I haven't really been researching that part of it.
And did much of, from the last time we saw this, has anything really changed?
No.
From a few weeks ago? Okay, thanks. That's what it's.
Remember, we're setting the high water mark here.
Well, I'm just, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So I'm curious, so this $508,000 in ARPA money that's left over, would it be worth it to just say that's going to be spent at council's discretion so we can make sure that we have a say in it and it doesn't just kind of disappear?
Well, it's already at your discretion.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know everything's at our discretion. I'm just trying to say that if we could let staff know that we would like to decide what happens. And I know we decide anyway, even if you come with another dump truck. But, because I know I've talked to Kiki about this, and we were talking about some of our arts programs and nonprofits that legally can take ARPA funds. And so I think I would like to have, at some point in time, Mr. Mayor, a discussion to see what to do with that. I know these organizations, many of them are still struggling.
And I'd also add that, I'd mentioned this to council at one time before, but there are a lot of projects percolating in the housing realm right now. And the opportunity to gain additional state funding could be there if we had match ARPA funding with it in that arena. So I appreciate being able to weigh in on that when we have the opportunity.
Certainly, we will make sure that happens. Any further questions for Bonnie? If not, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for approval of Resolution 22036, setting the primary budget for 2022-2023 to schedule public hearing for September 6, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Do we need to put the dollar amount in there, or is that, so we need to set what the dollar is?
It is in
I think
the
that would be a good
resolution. Isn't it?
Well, Woody didn't say
And
it.
set the, and just add that to whatever your number is.
It's 123,852,624.
Thank you.
Nice round
Thank you.
number.
So moved. Thank you, Dan.
Will clerk take the roll, please?
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
McEvers,
Yes.
Kukin.
No.
I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion for adjournment.
It wasn't very entertaining.
No,
Second.
had enough entertainment for the evening. All those in favor respond with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.